There was a point in time where director Neill Blomkamp was expected to be the next big thing. After a pair of runaway hits, the industry had very high hopes for him. However, as the years had gone on, he wasn't quite finding the success that he was forecasted to. And after a rocky time at the box office, he seemed to be sidelined. That was until he was announced as the director of the next big video game movie adaptation. Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, I have a brand new ranking for you all, as I'm going to be ranking all 5 of director Neill Blomkamp's movies. Just this past weekend, the movie adaptation of one of the biggest racing video game franchises of all time, Gran Turismo, hit our theaters, and you could probably guess, but director Neill Blomkamp was sitting in the chair for this one. This marks the 5th film in his filmography, so I figured why not rank them all. As always with my rankings and everyone else's, this is completely subjective. It is my own personal opinion, and that is why it is oh so important for you to leave your own personal opinion down in the comments below. As a final note before I hop into the actual ranking itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have an entire playlist dedicated to all of my ranking videos. There are well over 100 videos currently on that playlist for you to enjoy, so if rankings are your thing, then be sure to check that out, and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And so without further ado, let's hop right into things. Number 5, Demonic. I really wish I could say that every one of Neill Blomkamp's flicks were a hit with me, but this one absolutely was not. In fact, I almost forgot to include it in this video entirely. It is not worth your time, and that's all I can say about it. Really, like, without getting into any spoilery details or anything like that, this movie was shot during the heat of the pandemic, and was released in 2021, also very much so during the pandemic times, and it basically wasn't seen by anyone, and truthfully, that was for the best. This movie is just, it's not worth watching, unfortunately. I was hoping that this was going to be like a sleeper hit for Neill and really kind of be his big comeback, because before this movie released, he was off on the sidelines for 6 whole years. I was hoping that this one was going to kind of win people over and subtly build its way up and bring him back into the fold, but no, I think that this one was a major misstep, and by far, like a landslide, a metric ton, a nautical mile, his worst movie, and I do not recommend watching it whatsoever. Number 4, Gran Turismo. Truthfully, I actually had a really good time with this movie. Just doing a complete 180 to Demonic, the last entry, this movie was a lot of fun. The biggest thing that it needed to nail was those racing sequences, and they were honestly exhilarating. I thought that the racing sequences were very well shot, very well executed. They actually had the real world person that this movie story is following as the stunt double to the actor in the race car. I thought that was awesome. That was so cool in my opinion. Now, it is not perfect. It is far from flawless. Basically, like 30% of the movie just feels like super egregious, slap you in the face product placement. I cannot count how many times Orlando Bloom's character in particular goes on and on about how Gran Turismo has 80 million players worldwide. It's the most realistic racing simulator on the market. They just honk Gran Turismo's horn over and over and over again. And anytime that happened and I felt like I was just watching a Gran Turismo live action trailer, it really pulled me out of the movie. And I will also say that although this is based on a true story, they definitely Hollywooded it up here and there, because if not, then this true story is just extremely predictable and generic. I think they put their fingerprints a little too much on this true story, but aside from that, because it does sound like I'm bagging on this movie a little bit, again, the racing sequences were excellent. They were thrilling, and I love the way that they integrated the video game stuff in there. I thought that was awesome, and as a true story where these things, most of them anyway, really did happen, I actually thought it was a really cool story that I never even knew about. The other thing that saves this movie outside of the racing stuff is the cast, because our 2 main leads, in particular our main lead, Archie Modicui, which I'm probably just butchering that name, and I do sincerely apologize, I thought he was phenomenal. He brought this just sense of insecurity and vulnerability to the character, but when fire was needed, he absolutely brought the fire too. He had some really solid emotional moments in here, and I really bought into his portrayal of this real world person. The other side of that coin was David Harbour. I love David Harbour in basically everything that the guy is in, and I really loved their relationship and the dynamic they shared throughout the movie, and their on-screen presence and chemistry too really won me over. So was this one a perfect return to form for Blomkamp? No, but was it an enjoyable movie? Absolutely, and definitely one of the better video game movie adaptations. Number 3, Elysium. I really feel like this movie doesn't get anywhere near enough love. Sure, it's not like the most original movie out there. It doesn't reinvent the wheel or anything, but I think that there is a ton in here to enjoy. I really love the world that they built. It feels just very alive and very lived in, and I appreciated that. Whether you were on the ground or up in Elysium, I thought both worlds were very well realized. Of course, Matt Damon, I mean, you'd have to pay the guy millions to bring a bad performance to the screen. He is always superb, and it is no different here. Sure, the writing of his character is a bit generic, but he did a lot of his own stunts for this movie, which I always admire. And again, when the guy dials it up, he really dials in and always delivers. Jodie Foster was coined as our main villain for this one, but unfortunately, I don't know if it was the writing or her just phoning it in, but typically Foster is astounding, and in this movie, I don't think she could have been more forgettable. Thankfully, Sharlto Copley, the staple in almost every Neill Blomkamp movie, came in and just saved the day. And for a lot of people, saved this movie. He plays the kind of like main crony villain in this movie, but he absolutely stole the show. He steals every single scene that he is in. He just absolutely makes up for the lack of Jodie Foster being a compelling villain whatsoever. He is going super over the top, super hammy, but damn it, he is so menacing. He is such a force to be reckoned with in this movie, and I dug that. Number 2, Chappie. So this was the one that a lot of people thought was going to sink Blomkamp's career. Originally, it was pitched and meant to be a trilogy of movies, but it bombed hard at the box office, and it was just absolutely shredded by critics. But over the years, it really developed a cult following, and if you check the audience scores now, they're actually not bad whatsoever. I myself personally have been a fan of this movie since I saw it in theaters. I went into it knowing how low the Rotten Tomatoes score was, knowing how low the Metacritic scores were, and I was expecting garbage, and I left being like, I absolutely love this movie. I have no idea what they were talking about, and to this day, no matter how many times I rewatch it, I still don't know what they're talking about. Well, that's a bit of a lie, because I do know that casting Die Antwoord, or Die Antwoord, but like they pronounce it Die Antwoord, as your lead characters was a bad idea. They are musicians and they should have stayed in that music lane. I know why Neill Blomkamp did it. He wanted South Africans representing South Africa, and I get it, but they were shitty actors, admittedly, and apparently they were just a nightmare to deal with on set too. But outside of them, I love everything about this movie. Sharlto Copley as Chappie just basically had me in tears multiple times throughout this movie. I loved Hugh Jackman as the villain in this one. He gets to use his own accent in this movie, which is super rare for him, and I thought that was really cool that he just got to be an Aussie. He kicked all kinds of ass. When the action hits in this movie, it hits hard. It's big, explosive, gory fun. Dev Patel is in this movie too, and Dev Patel also is a human that just can't give a bad performance. The guy is always wonderful. And really, outside of those two characters, this movie to me is just magnificent, and I always enjoy it, and I watch it quite often. Number 1, District 9. This should come as no surprise whatsoever. In fact, I would be just absolutely flabbergasted if I saw any rankings that didn't have this movie in number 1. For the longest time, I considered this to be in my top 3 favorite movies of all time. It got bumped back a little bit on the list, but it's still among my top, few favorite movies of all time, and easily one of the best sci-fi movies ever made. It was original, it was unique, and it just took the world by storm. They played it very close to the chest with the marketing. They were very secretive. Their marketing campaigns were genius. And then the movie, despite a relatively low budget, just absolutely blew up the box office. They made the most of that budget because the movie to this day still looks stunning. And once again, my man that I have just been singing the praises for, Sharlto Copley, delivers a career best performance, a career defining performance, and one that put him and director Neill Blomkamp on the map. The only gripe I really have with it is that the villain, like the main villain, is just, again, another forgettable villain, which happens pretty often in Neill Blomkamp's movies, but nevertheless, everything else about this movie, the entire journey, the design of the aliens, the design of the ship, and everything in between, like, it nails the emotional beats. The action sequences are spectacular. And at the time of its release, this was something truly new and different, and a breath of fresh air into a genre that had kind of just fallen into a stagnant period where you were seeing a lot of the same movies. The sci-fi genre just kind of hit a rough patch, and then this movie came out, and now people started to think to themselves, hey, maybe we can just go all out on these crazy ideas that we have, and Neill Blomkamp was the spearhead of that. So once again, District 9, easily my number one, still to this day one of the best movies ever made. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my ranking. And while you're at it, don't forget to let me know how you would have ranked all 5 of director Neill Blomkamp's movies. If you're a movie lover whatsoever, then my channel is the place to be for you. Be it rankings like this one, top 10 videos, versus videos, tier videos, I have it all and so much more, with plenty of moving parts and plans going on behind the scenes. And there is already over 900 videos currently on the channel for you to enjoy. So if you enjoyed this particular video, then be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if any of that sounds like it's right for you and you want to see more from me, then smash that subscribe button right now. While you're at it, don't forget to ring that little bell icon. That way you can be notified about all of my latest uploads. And as always, stay safe. Thank you so much for watching. And that's a wrap. Hey you, yeah you, if you made it this far, just know I appreciate you. And while you're here, consider hitting that subscribe button.